Thank you. So I'm going to hand over to Clifford to run through the protocol for this evening.
Thank you, Chair. I know many members have attended virtual committee meetings before, but it is normal practice for us to read the protocol for members, officers and co-optees. So if I could ask members that you only speak when invited to by the Chair, and all participating members to keep their cameras on during the proceedings unless you're having bandwidth issues and you're having connection issues. If you do have any connection issues during the meeting, if you could use the chat bar in the right-hand corner, and Mario, our expert IT person, will pick this up and try to assist you. If you wish to speak, if I can ask you that you raise your hand. If, when speaking, if you could speak slowly and be clear in your enunciation if possible, and also when you're referring to anything in the pack, if you could say the page number, if it's a diagram or a diagram or a point or a paragraph, if you can please say the page number and the paragraph number, please. If you're having any tech difficulties, the chat bar is for use, but we don't use the chat bar for anything other than technical issues. If you have a question to raise, please raise your hand again to speak to the Chair, and the Chair will allow you to speak. The Chair will have her microphone on at all times during the proceedings. And finally, if there is any persistent disruption, the person will be asked to desist and will be removed from the meeting if necessary. Thank you very much, Chair. That concludes the protocol.
Thank you, Clifford. And just to say that the decision of this evening's meetings will be uploaded on the morning of the 15th. So, and what I would ask you to do is when you want to indicate, I think most people have their cameras off. So if you then put your camera on, then I will be able to see you. But do bear with me because the device I'm on, everyone isn't visible to me. So it may take a bit of time, but do bear with me. I'm sure we will all be fine. Okay. All right. So I've had apologies from Councillor Ema, but apart from that, no other absentees have been received. Item 2 of the agenda, I have not received any urgent items. Is that still the case, Clifford?
That's correct, Chair.
Item 3, do members have any declarations of interest?
Okay.
Item 4, can we note the terms of reference of the Standards Committee circulated? Thank you. Item 5, I've not received any deputations, petitions or questions for this evening.
That's correct.
Thank you. Item 6, unrestricted minutes of the meeting of Standards Committee meetings held on the 30th of February. Do members have any contributions or comments on that? If not, can we agree that or note that?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Then item 7, thank you, Councillor Lynch. Item 7, Standards Committee draft plan. Do members have any contributions or queries regarding the draft plan? That is page 11 to page 20 of the agenda item. So while I've not seen any indications, can I invite Dawn to say a few words regarding the draft plan, and then if members after that wish to then comment or contribute, we can do that. Dawn, if I hand over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bramble. A good evening to everyone. So just to take us quickly through the Standards Committee work programme for 2020 to 2021, as we have set out in the report, the committee has a number of initiatives that we would like to consider for this municipal year. we are charged as a committee to look at issues concerning the ethical governance framework. That includes the promotion and maintenance of high ethical standards amongst members of the council, and that is the remit of this committee. So the work programme is very important for us to try and agree real issues that will affect change where it's required amongst colleagues as members who have been elected to serve the local community. Further on in the agenda, tonight we are looking at the Committee on Standards in Public Life, and also we are looking at the draft or the model local members code of conduct that has been drafted by the LGA. So these are a couple of items that will be standing items and will form part of the work that the Standards Committee will be doing. And so tonight, really, it's for us as a committee, for yourselves as members, to agree the draft work programme that has been detailed in Appendix 1 to this report. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions or contributions? Okay, can I ask members to note and agree the recommendations in the report?
Agreed,
No.
Chair.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Moving on to item 8, the annual report of Standards Committee. Can I hand over again to Dawn?
You're on mute, Dawn.
Your camera and your picture's not on. Lovely,
Okay,
excellent.
thank you. Sorry for that.
That's all right.
So I'm hoping that everyone has had the opportunity to read the draft annual report. This sets out the work that the committee conducted for the year 2019 to 2020 and is attached as Appendix 1 and 2. So this is the 8th annual report of the Standards Committee since the Standards Committee was established by the London Borough of Hackney on the 1st of July 2012. It's a report which sets out the works and activities of the Standards Committee over the previous municipal year. It does not contain any financial implications for the council, but what it does do, it sets out all of the different areas that the Standards Committee considered, including the training plan, including the previous committee standards in public life, and a number of the different initiatives that were undertaken, including the appointment of 2 new co-opted members, and the other good work that was done by the committee. So the recommendation today is that as a committee, we will consider the annual report for submission and endorse it for submission to full council in the autumn. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dawn. Any questions, contributions or queries?
Chair, not really. Just to say, I did read the draft and it's very comprehensive and does the trick. I think we should just note with satisfaction that we haven't had to deal with any incidents of bad behaviour this year.
Yes.
But the fact that we've not had very much to do is a good thing. Our importance and our existence.
Yes,
Absolutely, totally agree.
And perhaps
agreed.
record thanks to the officers who prepared it on our behalf.
Yes, so we want to thank officers and to rightly echo what Councillor Hanson said. You know, the fact that we don't have anything to report on this is a positive thing. And we hope that we continue in that vein. So thank you, Councillor Hanson. So can I ask, if I don't see any other comments, so can I ask members to agree the report?
Agreed.
That is attached in Appendix 1 and 2 and endorse that for submission to full council. I just also want to say the report on item 7, just for the minute, that I'm asking you to agree is the one set out in the appendix of the report.
Agreed.
Thank you. So let's move on to item 9, the annual ICT report and activity for 2019 to 2020. And I'm going to invite Rob to speak to that. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bramble, and hello everybody. So this report. Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
No, it was me being distracted, noticing that you're in HSC building. It's, you know, yes, the worlds have been stuck in Zoom. Go ahead, Rob.
Although in the physical building, but still do most of my meetings virtually. So the report is our 9th annual report, I think. Well, I'm not sure about the number there now. It's the 9th annual report, and it covers members' use of IT during the 2019 calendar year. Obviously, we're slightly shifted because of the disruption to meetings because of the pandemic. An update on data protection training, bit of an update on the refresh of equipment as well, and also I thought it'd be useful to bring an update on the virtual committee meetings as well. Just to go through those quickly. So in terms of the use of IT, I'm happy to report that there haven't been any incidents recorded relating to members' use of council IT systems during the 2019 calendar year. So in table 6.7, we provide an update on that dating back to the origins of the report. So this is our 2nd year without any incidents being reported, which I think is very positive news, picking up on the comments raised earlier. In terms of data protection guidance, I think at previous standards committee meetings, we've talked about the different roles that members have with regards to data, which is more complicated than for officers, for example. And I've sort of just clarified those different roles there. Since the last update to Standards Committee, we've completed work to update our data awareness training so that it reflects the particular kind of context in which members handle data, which, like I say, are more complex. We've had 53 members have completed their training. There are 5 members who are still outstanding. We had made arrangements for face-to-face training to complete those. They were due just before the pandemic, but there were some issues with that session with the computers we were using. And then we've not been able to schedule a new date yet because of the pandemic, but hopefully we'll have that arranged fairly soon. But I think it's really positive to see a really significant number of members have completed that training. So that's really positive. And just to restate, that obviously we're available to support and advise members. So any members who have queries about data protection or provide extra advice, we can help with that. In terms of IT provision, since last time, so we secured funding for a refresh of equipment, which was now beginning to show its age. Brought proposals to the members reference group so that we could get members' input into that and make sure that what we were offering would meet their needs. The program was ready to roll out. We've had some delays to the rollout because of the pandemic, particularly because members kind of very helpfully allowed us to focus on the support for officers so that we could shift everybody to home-based working, which was done in a really short period of time and has been critical to allowing the council to sustain services to our residents. We're now in a position to begin to roll that out to members who haven't already received devices, and that's now in progress. The feedback I've had from members has been positive to that, and hopefully that reflects members of this committee's experience too. So I've just described there the equipment, the services and support that we make available to members. And then finally, before I pause for air and ask for questions, in terms of virtual committee meetings, it's been a significant amount of work. And again, we've moved forward very quickly on that. I have to give commend not just the work from the IT team, but also the work from policy and partnerships and the legal and governance services. It's been a really impressive piece of teamwork, and I've really enjoyed seeing how authoritative from the very beginning Clifford was in the managing of these meetings, which is very different to what we're used to. And also a big thank you to members who I think have really taken the time for the kind of the briefings, the checks, making sure they're set up and the protocols. We're beginning to see some of the data coming through in terms of live streaming, which is new for us, but the recent Health in Hackney Scrutiny Commission meeting had more than 100 people viewing that. So I think we're seeing some really interesting indicators in terms of public interest in the matters that are being discussed at these committees, and some really valuable kind of access through that. And I think some useful lessons. So we're really interested in continuing that work to see what can we learn from what we're seeing in terms of people's access. So we're seeing some really interesting stuff in terms of people, more people watching recordings than joining meetings.
Yeah.
And we're also seeing people are accessing specific topic areas. So I think there's some interesting follow-up discussion we can have in terms of what opportunities does this open, and how could we develop that. Anyway, I shall pause for air and invite questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your report. I just want to thank you, Dawn and Clifford, and everyone in the team that has worked on this. I think that every scenario that I think I could possibly pose for officers, what if, have you thought about? And every time, all of you have worked really hard to reassure me that actually this can and will work. I also want to commend Hackney, and I know the Mayor would want to extend his thanks here too, in that we were one of the first local authorities to take that model virtually. I think back in April, the 22nd, that was our first online meeting, and actually many councils hadn't thought about that. And Hackney, I felt, were leading the way on that respect, because we felt it was really important that in this time of the pandemic, that democracy still had that level of transparency and engagement. I suppose my question, but maybe not for answering now, would be how would we have a hybrid model? Because I think that the virtual world has opened up people's access and opportunities, for example, people watching online, in a way that hadn't happened before. But equally, we know because of the digital divide that some people will still want a physical meeting, and some people are just a bit more personable. And I suppose it's how, is there a hybrid model that gives access to both at some times would be something that I'd want us to explore. So I'll pause there and see if anybody else wants to come in, and maybe we'll take a few. I can see Councillor Adejai and then Councillor Williams. So I'll take those three and then ask Rob to respond. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'd just like to echo much of what Deputy Mayor Bramble said. It's been a seamless service throughout, particularly with the online meetings. I haven't said that, and that might be a bit cheeky at this stage. I mean, it's just in case any of us experience issues with our devices and are able to make it into the town hall. I'm aware that the group rooms don't have access to Zoom and Google Meets and so forth. But I just wanted to check, within the work that you're doing at the moment, is that something that's going to be rolled out? That's the end.
Thank you, Councillor Adejai. Councillor Williams?
Yeah, no, I wanted to echo thanks and gratitude to the ICT team for all the work they've done, not just to get councillors online and to deliver all of our meetings seamlessly, but also right across the council for the staff. I was not the greatest fan of Google when Rob first proposed it, and I do like to remind him of this. But it has, and it's a serious point. I really wasn't a fan of it at all, but it has served us incredibly well, and I think it was the right choice. The rollout of equipment at the time that it was rolled out was the right choice, and it has enabled all of us to continue to work from home throughout the pandemic. And I do think special commendation needs to go to the ICT for the incredible work that they have put into ensuring that we can all be online, and responding to any technical hitches and glitches throughout the day and throughout our period of working from home. So thank you, Rob. Thank you to you and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you just want to respond to any of those points, Rob? And I'll see if anybody else wants to come in.
Yeah, I think Councillor Lynch had a question as well. Should we take that and then I'll respond to all?
I will take, do you want to take those first and I'll come back just in case anyone else wants to come in?
Yeah, absolutely. So hybrid meetings is a really good question. So one of the things that's been very helpful in the work we've already done has been working with peers in other councils. So we've been working with other partners in London and outside of London to share kind of the learnings of the very early stages of moving to virtual meetings, and we're continuing that work together to try and look at how we can explore hybrid meetings. As part of that, our team and some other colleagues from other councils caught up with colleagues at the Parliament to see what we could learn from their experience of hybrid meetings of the House of Commons and the House of Lords. What's come from that is it's evident that the hybrid meetings are quite complicated. So there's kind of factors of equipment. There's also something about the balance of how we ensure that people who are joining remotely have an equal contribution to a meeting, where particularly where kind of the center of the meeting, if you like, is in a physical room, where we're all effectively equal in our participation in the meeting, that center of gravity shifts with a hybrid meeting. So care needed there as well. So it's something we're actively looking at. There are definite complexities to think through, but certainly to assure members that we're sort of proactively looking at that, and as we have done with the work to date, benefiting from sort of smart and innovative kind of minds from outside as well. In terms of equipment in group rooms, Councillor Adejare, yeah, we're currently, our priority in terms of planning for a phased reopening of office space is Hackney Town Hall. That includes considering the requirements for the areas where members are based, and the facilities there. One of the things we've been saying to officers, and Councillor Williams and I did an incredibly popular live stream on Friday with over 930 officers joining in, where we talked a bit about the office arrangement. And one of the things there is, as we apply distancing and COVID safe arrangements to those, how much reduction there is of capacity. But with that, we're looking at setting up all of the desks there. So we'll be more space between workstations all facing in the same direction, so people aren't breathing towards one another. A lot of additional work on hygiene and cleaning arrangements, but we're also looking at putting webcams on each of the machines there, so that people can join online meetings. And we're looking to reduce the number of surfaces where there's high touch contact. So we're removing keyboards, mice and telephones from the desks, and instead we'll issue individuals with keyboards and mice which they can use, and headsets for phone calls and meetings like this. So we're trying to make sort of sensible arrangements which will be consistent for members and for officers, that are COVID safe, but also make sure that those spaces are useful for this type of meeting.
Thank you. Can I bring in Councillor Lynch, and then after that, Ade?
Chair, it's fine. It was just to echo what Councillor Williams and Councillor Adejare had said as well about the good work that Rob and his team have done. And we're very blessed that we had somebody with Rob's insight to start looking at this virtual working, because I did watch, long story, but I ended up watching the planning committee meeting for Kensington and, no, was it Kensington and Chelsea? Or one of them, no, City of Westminster the other day, and it was quite interesting to see how other councils do their meetings. But yeah, so well done, Rob, and I hope you get a rest soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ade.
It's just a benefit that hasn't been mentioned yet, in terms of people who cannot read and write, that they can actually hear what we're saying without having to read the committee notes. It's very, very important, because now they're feeling included rather than excluded because of the level of literacy. So that needs to sort of be brought out in the report in terms of supporting this hybrid system.
Really good point.
Chair, if I might come back on just one point, I totally agree with that as the lead member for Equalities. And I think the other benefit that we haven't yet acknowledged is that, unlike before coronavirus, pre-coronavirus times, if you will, the officers of the committees and scrutiny had to make a judgment on what to record in minutes. We now have a store of recorded meetings online that have every single word that has been uttered by either a committee member or somebody giving evidence to the committee. And that is incredibly invaluable because we can all go back and reflect on words that have been said, evidence that has been given as it was given at the time, and we can also see to some extent body language. And I think that's really incredibly important. We haven't had that until now. So I guess my question to Rob is, with the recordings that you have online, are they going to be retained and kept? I note that they're on the Hackett YouTube channel rather than the Hackney Council YouTube channel. Are there any plans to remove them? And what happens in the future? In the past, there's always been a bit of a debate whether we do record scrutiny and committee meetings. Now that we have gone down that path, what are the future plans to continue to record committee meetings, council meetings and scrutiny meetings?
Rob, would you like me to?
Yeah.
I'll come in after you, Rob, yeah.
No, that'd be lovely, Dawn. I'll refer to you.
Sorry, Chair, just I think I could assist Rob with an answer to that for Councillor Williams. One of the work streams that has been set up to go forward, looking at how we recover from the COVID-19 pandemic as a council, is around governance, the governance structures, decision making, and one of the key elements is looking at exactly what you have outlined, Councillor Williams. So that will be something that we will be having quite a lot of discussion on, and we don't want to do that in isolation of members as well. So currently we have what's called the Excellence in Governance Group, which is made up of officers across the council from all of the different directorates, and with that we feed into the members reference group, and also the work will be discussed with Deputy Mayor Bramble and with the Mayor also. So I think it's very important to have on record that this is something that we are considering, and we do believe that it's very important. Rob has started that discussion already, so it will be something that we'll be giving a lot of consideration to as to how it can be implemented in the future.
Thank you. Did you have any is there anything more that you wanted to contribute on this item, Rob?
Just with regard to Councillor Williams' question about YouTube channels. So in the early meetings, we published to the Hackett YouTube channel, where effectively we were in beta, if you like. We were still evaluating the ways of working and making sure the protocols had settled. I believe these meetings are all now being published on the council YouTube channel. If there's any omissions to that, let me know and I'll make sure that we pick that up. In terms of the archiving of those recordings, that might well link. So the two aspects of that question, I guess, one is linking in with Dawn in terms of the record of things from a democracy perspective. Secondly, I know that colleagues in communications are also looking at effectively what is the Hackney Council time capsule from COVID-19, because I think, picking up on some of the earlier comments, some genuinely remarkable things have been done by public servants across the borough, both the council and elsewhere. It's quite a particular moment in history, and I think one which has hit many people in many tragic ways, but one where I think as public servants we can be proud of the contribution we're making, and I think it's a real opportunity to capture that for prosperity, and something which I think Hackney should be proud of in future years.
Thank you, Rob. And Mario, who's here in the meeting as well, has confirmed that the meeting is being streamed to the official Hackney Council YouTube channel. And I want to thank Mario actually for his support as well. I know that when we were doing our sound check yesterday, was assisted with another ICT problem that I had. So yeah, just want to echo my thanks to you as well personally, Mario. Thank you. All right, I haven't seen any more indications, so I'm going to close this item, but I'll ask members to note the update of the ICT use for members, note the progress of delivery of data protection training and refresh of ICT items for members, and to finally note the success and implementation of virtual committee meetings and live streaming.
Noted, Chair.
Thank you, colleagues. Moving on to item 10, which is members' training and development update. And I will ask Bruce to speak on this item and take questions and comments after. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. The paper in the committee paper lays out obviously the background for the member training offer. It also lists the number of training courses that have been offered en masse to members this year. As obviously, on top of that, members would have undertaken individual training. It lists at the end of that any training sessions that were cancelled. Predominantly, those cancellations were due to either the calling of the general election or the lockdown, which a number of courses were cancelled due to the lockdown in recent weeks. And finally, following the recent members reference group, where there was lots of feedback from members around wanting to change the approach to training into a lot more sort of pre-recorded bite-size video chunks of training. So we're now working on a sort of a program of that, so that we can pop on the members training website a whole series of briefings and training briefings and sort of help guides and information guides that members can just dip into at a time that's convenient to them, but are sort of short, from 5 to 10 to 15 minutes in length, short, that people can watch at their convenience, and then obviously go back to people with any questions, rather than sort of traditional classroom training, which obviously we're not going to be able to do for a while. But even video training sessions, which, given the amount of virtual meetings at the moment, the feeling is that's an additional strain now. I think by the end of the day, most people are video meeting out, and to then do a session on top of that is an additional sort of burden that people don't want, but do want to dip into those bite-sized chunks. So that's sort of the future direction that we're moving to, at least in the short to medium term, and then we'll review that as things develop, because obviously at the moment things are changing very fast.
Thank you, Bruce. Councillor Lynch.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Bruce, for this. It's basically, I put my hand up and then you answered the question, which was basically, can we capture the success of all the technology we have now to be able to do a lot more of this pre-recorded or online, so that we increase the attendance of members as well. I think you're being rather generous, Bruce, because I think I looked at that, and actually there should be more attendance by members at some of this training. And I definitely think, I hope this has been passed on to our group's whip as well, in terms of training as well, because obviously we've had COVID, but even pre-COVID there was there should be more members attending this training, and I appreciate the challenges of that, but we do need to, particularly for some of those training subjects that are incredibly important, particularly around our role as corporate parents, we should be having maximum attendance. My other question as well, Bruce, was just to make reference and make it noted as well, is that actually the planning team have been doing training for planning members as well. We've had a recent update in line with recent circumstances around legal challenges, and also in preparation for the local plan being submitted to full council next week as well. So the planning committee have been undertaking training during these times as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Can I take Councillor Adejayi, then after I'll take Ms Labinjo, and then go back to Bruce.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. I think I'm just going back. In terms of the PDPs being an optional for backbenchers, I think that's something that kind of causes quite a certain degree of concern with me, because we have organisations like LGIEU, which do host a lot of training sessions for people, but a lot of them are targeted to cabinet members, which kind of leaves backbenchers just left to the wayside. Although we get a lot of internal training, in terms of our own personal development and increasing our own breadth and knowledge of other areas outside of our immediate areas of work. I just want to see how that's being factored in terms of the planning that you're doing. Okay, yeah. I think I don't want to go on anymore. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Adejoye, if there's more points you want to make, feel free to expand a bit more.
Okay, yeah. I think for me, I have no issues at all with the training that's provided, but I mean, having been both an officer and a councillor, I know that when it's all organisation related and there's nothing outside of that, that could possibly be a reason why attendance figures are so low. If we bring something new to the mix, you know, that could grab people's attention, although there's statutory elements which we have to do. I think I've done all of mine. It's those additional elements which enhance the experience of us as councillors, which I think are being overlooked in terms of the provision that we've got. I think personal development is important for all of us. And although we've agreed to make it optional, I think there should be something within the provision that kind of bridges the gap between that without having to take up a kind of development plan itself. And I think that's sort of missing in the mix. And if Bruce has got any idea as to how we can kind of get a kind of quick fix to that, even though we can't have face-to-face sessions and so forth. I mean, I'm speaking for me personally as well. I often feel that I'm not really getting the kind of wholesome approach to my experience as a councillor in terms of training. Sorry, not being critical, but that's just me. Thank you.
Thank you. No need to apologise, Councillor Adejoye.
Okay, do you want me to take that, or do you...
Miss Labinjo wanted to come in as well.
I'm actually basing my comments on just reading the report, because you know I'm a co-opted member. So effectively, what I read on the report was really quite impressive compared to what we've had years back. It looks structured, it's comprehensive, it's flexible and user-friendly from what I read. But I mean, I need to, listen to the people who are actually using it. So this is what the report reads like from all the previous reports we've had over the years. So, I mean, I just want to add that. The only other question I want to ask, which is personal, is that, again, there's a lot of focus on elected members. I'm not sure what is there for co-opted members. Like, I think I joined at the start of everything, and I had an induction training on code of conduct years ago. So effectively, I'm still that. What else is there for co-opted members? I'm not sure if it had to be done by committee, but it's just good for us to know what we can dip our hands into in terms of, bringing us up to date. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So before I bring Bruce in on this, I've seen an indication for another question. I would say that I totally agree. I think that the offer now to what we had to where we were maybe a few years ago has been transformational. So I think that's important to say, not to preempt what Bruce is going to say, but I suspect there'll be some work between possibly him and Councillor Adejoye to think about what those different things that we can offer. And absolutely, I want to say Bruce, or I think it's Bruce and I think Councillor Webb were talking about how some of the training we could open that out to co-opted members, and when would that be appropriate, and if there needs to be just co-opted member only sessions as well. Forgive me if it wasn't you, Councillor Webb. Those are my COVID moments. I'll blame it on when my memory doesn't serve me as well as it is. But Bruce, I'll bring you in, and then after I'll come back and take Miss Hand's question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramble. I'll take your last point first. Yes, in terms of co-opted members, our plan is to open this training out, and especially on these sort of the online sort of briefing sessions, that these are freely available to, where appropriate, to co-opted members as well. And it should be good background to a number of areas of general interest, even if it's not specific to the committees that they're sitting on. Councillor Adjare, in answer to your question, we've got a number of sort of courses, etc., available through the LGA, which are very much aimed at sort of backbench councillors and development of those. And they are today, literally, they've come up with a new program that's sort of post COVID, which we're about to share out to members, which includes some one-to-one development sessions as well. So we'll get that out to you, and obviously encourage you to get in touch with myself or any other member services team, and we can work through something that hopefully will work for you.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Ms. Hans, did you want to come in with your question or contribution?
Yes, thank you. As with Ms. Lavinjo, I'm also a co-opted member, so I appreciate I don't know what the internal context is. I just had a question around how the training sessions in that programme for members is sort of determined or developed, and what needs and what data drive that. And that might also speak slightly, for example, to what Councillor Adjare was talking about in terms of the wants of members, but also what drives the kind of the scheduling as to what is considered necessary or useful or important for training. Thank you.
It's a mixture of things. There's a number of elements that are a mandatory training that people will have to do. So, for example, around planning and licensing, etc., that they'll have to do. There are some things that we would want. It's good practice for us as an authority to get out there, especially things around safeguarding and corporate parenting, which all members have got a responsibility for. It will then move into maybe items that are pertinent because of what's going on at the time. So either through policy change or through what's just going on within Hackney or wider society. Some of it will be around personal safety, for example, of members. There were things, for example, things in there around census. So it's something that's happening as an event that next year, which is the members have a key role to play in. And the other element is obviously feedback from members as well as to areas that they feel that they want and need development in as well. So it's a mix of all things. Quite often there's more demand than there are available slots, because these things have to fit in around other council meetings, other schedules. So it's quite often a balance, and trying to find that right balance of things. But hopefully, again, another positive of the move towards more shorter and video things is that we can actually expand that offer and put out some greater volume of stuff as well, because we won't be restricted in terms of those slots.
Thank you, Bruce. Councillor Adjare, did you have a further question?
I did, thank you. So this is just a sort of by the by in terms of training provision, whether this could ever be a consideration. I think in terms of our day-to-day work, case reviews, with respect to standards and other elements that we've come across in terms of possibly contentious issues or casework management, things like that, I think would be of great use to people. I think particularly in terms of standards, although we've maintained our standards over the past couple of years, well done. There are instances where councils, there's a red line which sometimes is not clear to a lot of people. So I think having the chance to look retrospect, I don't know whether this happens across authorities, whether that kind of information is shared, outcomes, what caused the problem, and what restorative actions were taken would be useful sorts of things. And I also think in terms of the cases that we undertake as well on behalf of our constituents, having officers on hand to kind of explain and talk us through why things are as they are, despite what we've presented to the authority. I think things like that would also be helpful, just in terms of, kind of creating a kind of unified entity. We're not unified, but a kind of level of understanding between councillors, as to the nature of what goes on internally. Although we're all aware of protocols and guidance and so forth, taking it down to that kind of level gives us more of an insight as to the goings on across the board in whichever area, whether it's standards or whether it's housing or whether it's social services or whatever it is. So I'm just wondering whether that's something that's been considered. Sorry. I'm sorry if this is a wish list now, but it's just something that occurred to me, which I haven't ever really seen before. But I think case reviews are important in terms of getting that in-depth knowledge and awareness.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Adejai. No need to apologise for sharing ideas and being aspirational, Councillor Adejai. Bruce.
Thank you, Councillor Adejari. In terms of your first point, thank you. Yes, good idea, and I'll take that away. In terms of your second point, and it's very much work in progress in terms of the casework review, which I think you're aware of, which is ongoing, and that is my desire to have that feedback being very real and someone for you to go to be able to have that ongoing dialogue with.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Can I ask members to note the report?
Noted.
Chair, sorry, I did have one brief question. Forgive me, I was going to ask this before. In the table where it has M in brackets, is that mandatory training, as was referred to a minute ago?
Yes, it is.
Okay, no, just that there isn't a key to what that means. So I think just referring back to what was said earlier about people's ability to scrutinise the council's work, if it's possible to insert that as a footnote, then it would be more clear to someone.
Yeah, apologies.
Because that's the hack.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm very happy to endorse it. Sorry, I didn't mention that before.
Thank you. That's helpful, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Hanson, just to let you know, you can either show your hand or indicate in the text chat if you want to speak as well. I am trying to check both to hopefully not miss anyone. Can we go on to item, so we've noted that, to go on to item 11, a verbal review of the number of complaints about members. Dawn?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I am pleased to update the committee tonight that we have not received any formal complaints in relation to members or member conduct since February 2020 to date. So that is my verbal update to the committee. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Any questions or comments? I've not seen any indications. So just to echo what Councillor Hanson said at the very beginning about our standards committee and the reports, it's a positive thing when we don't have anything to report on in this area. So thank you. Can I ask everyone to note the report? Note the verbal report. Thank you. So item 12 is a verbal update on the current position with recommendations arising for the Governance Committee on the Standards in Public Life on the subject of ethical standards in local government. If I could hand over to Dawn again for a verbal update.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, Chair. So just to give some background to the committee and also to members of the public who may be watching, the Committee on Standards in Public Life advises the Prime Minister and government on ethical standards across the whole of public life in England. In its most recent statement that was made in June 2020, the committee stated that it is ensuring that it's maintaining a close watch on standards issues which are arising as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. It further stated in its public statement that in recognising the unique and unprecedented nature of the challenge for the public sector, continuing to uphold the 7 principles of public life is vital to maintaining trust in government, in local government, central and local government, and our institutions throughout this crisis. So I think it's very important to note that the Committee on Standards in Public Life is actively looking at members' behaviour, members' conduct throughout the whole COVID-19 pandemic, and how we are members are adhering to the 7 principles that have been set out for everyone. It's quite interesting to note that they have referred to individual aspects of the 7 principles, including leadership, accountability. And as a committee, we have examined the 2019 Local Government Ethical Standards Report and the recommendations. The recommendations, as we know, require legislation to be implemented. And I think as a result of the vast number of legislation that has been required as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, central government have not as yet been able to look and to get to in its diary the implementation of those recommendations into legislation. So for the committee tonight, what I would like us to note is that we will keep a close watch on what's happening in central government in terms of drafting legislation. And as soon as something becomes available, we will prepare a report and bring it back to the committee for further discussion and to see how, as a council, we will be implementing the recommendations once they have been made. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dawn. Any comments or contributions on item 11? I can't see anybody indicating in the chat. Ms. Hands, would you like to make your comment or contribution?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
the question the question is just about, and this is probably something that would be further down the line, particularly when people perhaps have a bit more headspace. But just talking about the Committee for Standards of Public Life, talking about COVID-19 and keeping that view on members' conduct during that time in terms of whatever, any member of public life that is. My question is around whether we might have the space at some point to reflect, although we might not have had any formal complaints or any really substantive issues, reflect on any of the risks that that rapid response and the crisis may have potentially raised, particularly, apologies, in relation to the way in which people conduct themselves. So just to add to that, often people conduct the wrong behaviours out of error more than deliberate malice, because they don't realise perhaps things are changing. Maybe they failed to declare something, maybe because things are so rapid. So is there the opportunity in future to do a bit of a retrospective that even if there haven't been any formal major issues, is there any learning we can take away around potential risks when situations like this arise and where we have to rapidly respond in a crisis to ensure that members don't kind of fall foul as a result because of one reason or another?
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Chair. I'll respond to the question. I think that's a very good point that you raise, and as a committee, that is something that we can do, because obviously being able to take a retrospective look is key to then informing how we continue to improve in terms of our behaviour, as noted. And so, whilst we have, this is a good opportunity, even in this meeting, to be able to think about the work programme, to think, is this something that we should add for the next Standards Committee meeting that we have? We also are under an obligation to as a committee, to think as committee members, even outside of this formal framework, as to instances that have come to our attention and to our knowledge, and to raise it through the appropriate channels that are there. So as you say, if there is behaviour which has been noted, which is not seen as being the correct behaviour, it doesn't have to formally go through the monitoring officer route and make, and a formal complaint be made, which then has to be investigated. And I think if as members and corporately as an organisation, if we actively are seen to be reviewing behaviour of any type, that's always going to be a good thing and always help to improve us as an authority and as members and people who and councillors who are accountable to the general public. So that's something I would push back through to our chair today to give consideration to in respect of our future work plan. Thank you.
Thank you for that contribution, and I think that's really helpful. Any more comments or queries? Can I ask everyone to note the report? Okay.
Noted, Chair.
That's fine. 12. And I suppose we can go on to item 13. And I suppose feeding on from that, I suppose a good example would be, as this is about the Local Government Association, and this report gives an overview of the recent published work that the Local Government Association has done. It's proposing revisions and modifications of the aspects of local authority on terms of members' conduct. And I suppose, although it's on my declaration of interest that I'm a member of the Local Government Association, at the beginning of the meeting I didn't say that, and that might lead into a typical example of what Hans was saying, because although I wasn't in my role, I didn't oversee this particular part of work. It's important to say that, but it is on my declarations of interest. But I suppose those are the kind of things that we say. It's declare everything, even if you don't think it's necessary, and because there's no harm in declaring, but there's always harm if you don't. So on that, I'll hand over to you, Dawn.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So as we know, all councils are required to have a local members' code of conduct, and the Local Government Association has published just recently, June 2020, a model members' code of conduct. This code has been developed by the LGA in consultation with the public sector. So a number of different organisations across the public sector were invited by the LGA to contribute to a draft model code. So it is offered as a template for councils to adopt, and it could be either adopted in whole or with local amendments. So the LGA have also committed to complete an annual review of the code to ensure that it continues to be fit for purpose. And this is in light of the really rapid changes that we've seen across the whole of local government in terms of virtual meetings. There's so much new legislation that is being implemented by central government, and things, there does seem to be no longer a standing target. There's definitely a lot of change. And so the LGA have decided that they will complete an annual review of the code to ensure, as I said, that it's fit for purpose. So members are asked to agree the recommendations as they have been set out in the report. The first being that at point 2.1, that the committee would consider and note the report of the LGA in respect of its recommendations, which are contained in Appendix 1, with regard to the proposed member model code of conduct. 2.2, the Standards Committee agreed to review its existing member code of conduct, which is attached at Appendix 2, with a view to considering whether we need to modify our existing code where required. As I said before, what the LGA have said is that councils, local authorities can adopt in whole the model code, or can adapt their own codes of conduct. In order to be able to achieve recommendation 2, we are recommending that the committee tonight establish a member/officer task and finish group to convene as an ad hoc basis through the autumn-winter part of the municipal year of 2020 to assess and to review our current code in relation to the proposed LGA model. This would then, once we've agreed what we think would need to be changed, would then be going to full council for adoption. And the final recommendation relates to a proposed membership of the task and finish group. It's just a proposal, and what we are saying is that it could potentially comprise of 2 councillor members from the Standards Committee, 2 co-opted members of Standard Committee, the Director of Legal and Governance, and a senior lawyer or the head of law, together with the clerk to Standards Committee, who will be from the governance support team. So those are the recommendations which I would put forward to the committee tonight. Thank you.
Any comments, queries or contributions?
So I
I've
think,
not.
yeah, if we could, what would be good is if we could have members agreeing whether they feel that it would be appropriate to have 2 or more. We can have 2. We can have more than 2 members to join with the task and finish group, and then 2 or more of the co-optees. So if we could have people nominating themselves tonight or each other, that would be great.
So can we have some indications of people who maybe would like to work on the task and finish group, or equally, if you want to ponder on that and think about it, if you could let Clifford know by the end of the week, that would be really helpful.
Okay. So
I
we
think
have
you've got
had
a lot
show
of people there who are interested.
Yeah.
I think that shows you the role of a councillor. We are little nerds. Yes, we'd like to be involved.
Excellent.
Thank you, Councillor William.
Chair, could I just ask that backbenchers be given consideration as well for this?
That's a good suggestion. I think that would work really well.
Yeah.
Is that also meaning that you're volunteering as well, Councillor Lynch? So we can do that tomorrow. We can send an email around tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I would like first dibs though.
Thank you. So, no, you absolutely have it. Councillor Webb, is an indication of your desire to join.
So,
I'm sure Dawn and I can agree maybe having a slightly larger working group if there's an interest from backbenchers, because I think it's a good opportunity to get a broader brush, and comments of people that are not sitting so close to this might be quite helpful, Dawn, if that's
yeah,
all right.
I agree. I think that would be. I think
So
that would be excellent. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we will do that. Thank you for members that have indicated so far, and then I will send an email round. Dawn and I will talk about an email that will go around tomorrow to invite backbenchers on. But good idea, Councillor Lynn. I agree, Councillor Williams. I never considered myself a nerd in school, but the things that really fascinated me and interest me now, I do reflect on that. But happy to be in that category. So can we agree the recommendations, and we will confirm the working group outside of the meeting? Agreed? I'm seeing nods and no disagreement.
Agreed.
Excellent. We're going to move on to item 14 to consider any unrestricted items of business, and there is none that I've been informed of. And then 15 to exclude the public and press. There are none online. So on that note, I would like to end the meeting and thank you all for your participation. Councillor Williams.
Yeah.
Clifford.
Chair, could I just say, if members could just come back to me in the next couple of days to indicate that I think I saw nearly everyone that was putting their hands up, but if you could just send me an email to say that you're definitely interested in participating, that would be great. Thank you, Chair.
That's a good idea. So if you want to be on the working group, if you can confirm by email,
thank you.
That would be helpful.
Thank you, Chair.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you all for your participation.
Thank you.
Fully appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, officers.
Thank you, Chair. Bye. Thank
you. Bye-bye. Lovely to see you, Councillor.